All right, welcome back to the Worst Is Yet to Come podcast, episode 3. I'm here with my friend Harry. Hello, buddy.
What's up?
Hey, so we're here. Actually, we were going to talk about the Plains of Abraham, which is an important battle in Canadian history, when this whole Bill C-18 thing in Canada kind of like came out of nowhere because clearly I wasn't paying attention to the news, and
That's
I was
probably
checking.
that's probably the point.
Yes, that's probably the point. Yeah, so I was scrolling on Instagram. And I clicked on like CBC or something, and I couldn't open it, and it told me this kind of content is now blocked in Canada, and I was like, wait, what? And then I Googled it, and I was like, wait, why is all the news blocked in Canada? So that's when this whole Bill C-18 thing popped up. I guess I heard about it, and I kind of forgot about it because I mean, Canadian politics just drives me insane, makes me angry. But essentially, it's like people in Canada can't see this content. In response to the Canadian government legislation, news content can't be viewed in Canada. So, like any news on a social media site, so like Facebook or Instagram, I guess Twitter too, or what's the other one, Threads, right? Can't be seen now because the government is blocking it, which is unreal of a concept to me because it just sounds like censorship.
Yeah. Yep. And God, the like I remember you telling me that. Like I saw you like posted on your story like the screenshot, and I was just like, what? And then I had to go like look everything up because obviously I have no idea. You know what I mean? Like you said you had like heard of it in passing, but like I had heard nothing of it because I'm not Canadian. So, but I looked it up and I was like, what, dude? That's such a crazy thing that like
Yeah.
in 2023 they're like, oh yeah, there's not gonna be news on the internet, Canada on social media. Like what? What, dude?
So when I was researching this, right? It's part of Bill C-18, which is the Online News Act, which became law in June. So this is already passed, okay? And I looked up like the vote on Parliament, right? And it was 207 votes yay and 116 nay. So it was brought up by a Liberal member of Parliament who was like the Heritage Minister, Pablo Rodriguez. He's like a Argentinian immigrant to Canada, and he brought it up. And essentially, the 207 votes are all Liberals, Bloc Québécois, and the NDP, and the nay votes are mostly the Conservatives. So, I mean, it's obviously like a left kind of bill being pushed through, because, I mean, all three parties that voted are left parties in Canada, right? And yeah, so it went through, and essentially, it's the act says digital companies must pay news organizations when someone gets a web story, like click through one of their links or whatever. And the government says it's supposed to sort revenue sharing that's needed to make sure Canadian news continues to exist after most advertising has moved to online platforms that wiped out a lot of revenue streams for journalism. So I mean, this is happening all over the world, right? Print news journalism is dying. No one wants to buy newspapers anymore. Everyone's doing it
Yep.
all online, right?
And so it's like you're describing that way. It's like, oh, it's a way. They said like, oh, it's actually a way of like being able to make sure the revenue goes into the right hands. Like, no, it's like actually it seems like it's a clever way to do censorship. You know what I mean? It's like like back in the old days, you could see something like maybe kind of along the lines of this, like I'm talking like 1700s or whatever. Like, oh, how would you censor the news back then? It's like, oh, it just don't actually say you can't print news. Say there's like a massive tax on printing presses or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a way of like circumventing censorship. Like, of course you're not actually censoring something, but you're just making it to where nothing can actually be said or looked at or viewed in any kind of way. So
Well, the funny thing is, I'm just trying to open up some. I mean, I compiled a bunch of information for this, right? So we could just have stuff to look through while we're discussing. We don't
yeah.
actually have like a format, is kind of like our style. We just kind of have conversations. Anyways, so I'm trying to open a link that I posted in our kind of like thread, and I can't open it on my computer because it was actually an Instagram link that had a news thing attached to it. So I'm turning on the VPN I bought a VPN last night. I'm turning on the VPN right now so I could figure out how to open this thing so I could talk about it. Like, that's how bad it is. I went out and I spent $14 on a VPN.
Ugh.
Just because I want to be able to see stuff, right? Like I looked up like the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, right? We have the freedom of expression, which is kind of like our freedom of speech or whatever. And
Yeah,
and like apparently this is legal under our Charter of Rights.
like tech isn't covered.
No, like I mean I'm not a lawyer. Like I don't understand lawyer lingo, but like under our Bill of Rights and Freedoms, right? This is perfectly legal. Where like if this were happened in America, it'd be like, no way, man. Was it First
There'd
Amendment?
be riots. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
it
what I
would.
mean.
Well, like first of all, like in America, I feel like it'd be like political suicide to like vote yes for something like this.
Oh yeah.
Even if you're a liberal, like some of the maybe like really far liberals could do this, like AOC or something like that. Maybe could
Yeah.
Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. She could probably be on with this kind of thing, but like I don't even think she would, because it's always been such a that's what's confusing to me, is that the traditionally, like for like any political movement, whether it be conservative or liberal, right? It like the press is that's what you use. That's the tool you use. You know what I mean? But it seems like, to me at least, that in Canada, the Liberal Party, like the liberal, spectrum, they already have the power, so they don't need the tool anymore. And they're even saying, what's more is that the conservatives can no longer have that tool either. You know what I mean?
So it's like what you're saying about like
That,
the
to me,
Liberal
it's
Party and media. Something that the Liberal Party caught on to really quick, like as social media was kind of ramping up in like the early 2000s or whatever, was they kind of clung on to the idea of advertising through social media. So in the last couple elections, they knew where their weak ridings were, and they pumped like
a
crazy
ton
like
of stuff.
advertisement media campaigns in social media to
Yeah.
try to sway voters and get votes in those key seats, right? Because predominantly, right, last election, the Conservative Party had more of the popular vote, but that doesn't matter because we go by like a seat system, right? So the
Yeah.
Liberals won more seats. They won the important seats. What the Liberal Party is actually good at is like their social media, like advertising stuff, where they can get ads jammed into these certain ridings. So like the system that they used to win the election is that now like the news kind of system that they're suppressing now, or they're kind of putting under like, control. So like I don't understand. I really don't understand.
Yeah.
It just baffles my mind that like this can happen. Like it feels like they brought this up. They created a problem where there wasn't a problem. I mean, I guess the newsprint people were a little upset about them losing revenue, but I mean, time goes on. It's the future is now. Get with the times, or it's
Yeah.
not the public's responsibility for you to keep up with like what's going on. This is capitalism. Do your best, or you're gonna fail. Like I don't know what to tell you. You know what I'm saying? Like
And
it's
I was looking through the just because I have no other way of looking at it beyond what you send me.
Yeah.
I was just looking on Wikipedia, and it says the first like the way that it says, like, the primary component of Bill C-17 is the provision that allows for quote unquote eligible news businesses to initiate mandatory bargaining with a digital news intermediary, right? So again, it's just them circumventing like censorship. But then if you go down to what constitutes an eligible news business, it says a literally quote qualified Canadian journalism organization, end quote, under the Income Tax Act. So I guess the government has to like okay that you're a journalism organization. So now it goes even deeper to saying like, oh, does it seem like the Canadian government can tell who, and they can deem who and who is not a journalist now? Like, could they already do that? And then this is like adding like another level of like, not only can we say who and who isn't a legitimate journalist, now if we say that you're not a legitimate journalist, or you were circumventing the legitimate journalist classification than we had before, you're still not going to be able to get your voice out because of this new thing we're doing now.
Which I don't understand is like, say, if, like, I mean, I use Instagram a lot. I think that's part of like the generation that I'm a part of. There's a lot of like, um, I don't know, say like almost like neutral or at least like news sources
Moderate,
that I
yeah,
follow that like just tell it how it is and they don't have a
yeah, not yeah,
bias. And
yeah,
it's like,
nonpartisan news, yeah,
yeah, like one of them is literally called like no bullshit news that I follow, and they just
yeah,
straight up give the facts how it is, and it's like stuff like that is being more and more popular than the actual traditional media because we could tell that there's a bias that's being like pushed into everyone, like the
yeah,
agenda that's being pushed, and a lot of people in Canada specifically are just fed up, and it's like, man, we don't want to. We're so sick and tired of like all this crap. Like, let the media that isn't going to be able to survive just die. If the print media, these big companies, can't survive, just let them die. This is what capitalism is. Let them die so the better stuff can come to the top and, be predominant. And it just seems like the liberals, I mean, most government is in cahoots with the media. I mean, it's what it is. Politics is just dirty. And anyone who
oh,
doesn't think it is delusional.
yeah.
Okay.
Did you see the whole deal with like Elon Musk taking over Twitter and all that shit? Did you see like
Yeah.
all that shit that came out after that?
Yeah.
Like in America, they found out like he thought that Twitter had done this, so he buys Twitter, and then is like, "Oh yeah, I told you guys they did this." And for anyone that doesn't know, it so he thought that Twitter had kind of colluded with um like Democrat or like just politicians in general, not even Democrat or Republican or conservative or liberal, right? But colluded with government, like politicians at all, or the government at all, to whether or not they do or do not allow certain things to be on their platform, you know. And so, and he thought they had done this, so then he bought Twitter, and then he gets all of the records, and he's like, "Oh yeah, see guys, like they did do this," and it's like, "Yo, what, dude?" The government was telling. Like the United States, people in the United States government or like working for like government organizations were saying like, yeah, can you take this tweet down? This is like not cool. Or it's like, what, dude? This is directly going against like freedom of speech, all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
I mean,
I wanted to go like I wanted to like kind of circle back to what I was saying earlier about. So that again, going back to that qualified Canadian journalism organization under the Income Tax Act. I think it was
yeah.
Income Tax Act of 1961 or whatever it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
I looked on the Canadian government's website of like how you become a qualified journalism organization, right?
Yeah.
So this is you totally have to go through the government to get that designation. Like you have to like file with the Canadian Revenue Agency, which is like the Canadian version of the IRS. If you're American, and don't know. So like it's you saying, yes, government, do I have your permission to be legally called a journalist? Yeah, like that's insane. You know what I mean?
How does it work in America? Like, do you know how that would work in America?
It's if you have a computer and you want to start a blog, you're a fucking journalist now. like that's what you do. Like if you want to start if you just want to like start Fox News and you have the money,
Yeah.
good luck. And you just have to pay for TV spots. Good luck with that. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously you have to like register as like a business with the IRS, but it's like it's not something where you need the government to sign off on you being a news agency. You know what I mean? It's just if you're saying this stuff and like literally it's like a lot now in our kind of day and age start like you were saying, it's the real news, no bullshit. It's an Instagram thing. You know what I mean? But like
Yeah.
they it's also a website, so it's like a news blog type thing, but it's like legit news too. So and that just was started because some guy was like, hey, the news is all bullshit, so let's do like real news, no bullshit. You know what I mean? And he just did it. And if he makes money off of it, then he has to go. Like ideally, he would have done it before, but ideally, you go and like make it a legal entity, like like a company, whatever, incorporated or something like that, right? And then you file for a tax identification number in with the IRS, and then you pay taxes on whatever money you make from being that company. Like you don't need to ask for permission or like anything like that. All you have to do is be like legally incorporated as like a company, or you don't even have to do that. You can be like self-employed, and then file a tax return that states that, that you just include all your, your income, your revenue information on that, But it's not like this where you have to like, you're like, we're asking the government like, oh, to be actually considered a journalism organization, you have to fill out this special tax form and get this special tax ID number. It's like, no, if you're just a business, you just get one. The U.S. government at least doesn't really care what you do as a business, as long as you're, not breaking any law or you're, not, doing something weird. You know what I mean? But that's literally how it works. Is like, if you just want to start it, like I right now could just start a news blog. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if I made enough money from it, I could buy TV time. You know what I mean? But because a lot of the networks also own the big news agencies, they own those time slots. It's like, well, would they sell it to you? You know what I mean? Like, probably not. And in America, that's how you could say like, oh, that's one way in which it's encroaching on our freedom. You know what I'm saying? Because they own all, like, these big networks own all the TV time. So that would be a way that you could say like, oh, it's messed up even in America. You know what I mean? But like, other than that, like, no, that's how it works. Like, you don't need for the government to like classify you as an official like news agency or anything like that. It's just, if you make money off of it, pay your taxes. The government doesn't give a shit generally. But if you're saying like, inciting violence and shit like that, it's different. You know what I mean? But like, look at like Alex Jones. You know who that is, right? Like,
oh yeah, I know who he is.
like,
yeah.
Like whether you like him or not, like that's a good example of like how batshit the quote unquote news can be. You know what I mean? Like, he's making money. All he's doing is paying his taxes. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
the government doesn't give a shit, or the government used to not give a shit. I think they give a shit now. You know what I mean? Or I think they're starting to get to the point where like, oh yeah, he's not supposed to be saying that. You know what I mean? It all comes with just all this kind of, I don't know where it's coming from. It's insane I think that people are like on the side of censorship now. It's insane.
Well, I think it's
for anything.
Like, I think it's like the extremes are kind of pushing on this, right? I mean, like most average people are just moderates on everything, and then you have like the loud people on the left and the right that are like extreme about their views, and they're the ones that are pushing everything on the internet. So I mean, it's not really helping that like the loudest people are the craziest people.
Yeah, or like the loudest people are, God, it's sort of like the sheeps and the wolves. You know what I mean? It's like the wolves are loud. You know what I mean? The wolves are the ones getting the followers. And it just so happens that there's not too many wolves in the middle. You know what I mean? Like all of the wolves, like, it doesn't really seem like any of the wolves are moderate. You know what I mean? The wolves are, super conservative or super liberal, and you know what I mean? That they get people to follow them and vote their way and that kind of stuff. So it's like, it's just so weird that like you think anyone would ever be for like censorship, because you see how like dangerous it can be. Because like, what's going to stop the government from just saying whatever they want now? Like nothing.
Well, that's the thing. I don't understand is like, so was this like really, was it put in to help preserve like the media companies, or was it put in so like they like control the news that's coming out?
Well, like, so let me just put it to you like that, or to you, or to anyone who's like
I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I'm just saying like it sounds really fishy that like,
I don't either. But you've seen all the shit like the Liberal Party, like in Canada, like when I'm saying liberal, like we're talking about the Liberal Party in Canada. So like, if you've seen all of the things that the Liberal Party in Canada has done, like they've like taxed business. They they put all these like things, these They do what liberal parties do. You know what I'm saying? They tax business. You know what I mean? They're not really. There's not too business friendly, right?
No.
Like they
They're
would
not very
you
people friendly. They're trying to
like like
tax this
like
into the
like you
ground.
like you wouldn't say that Trudeau and the Labor, is it Labor Party, is the Liberal Party?
Liberal Party of Canada.
You wouldn't say that Trudeau and the Liberal Party in Canada were too business friendly, right?
No.
Okay, so why would they do anything that would help the revenue of businesses? They don't give they don't give a shit about business. Like,
no.
so them to say, oh, this will actually help businesses. Like, we know you don't give a shit about business, so why are you doing this?
I mean, yeah, this.
You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of what's like to think that. God, like, this doesn't make sense. Like,
Yeah.
to think that like Trudeau and the Liberal Party in Canada give a shit about business is hilarious. They don't care. You know what I mean?
No, they didn't care during COVID when they shut down all
Yeah.
the, small businesses and left the big ones open. Like, dude, there's so many small businesses that went out, because of the
Yeah.
restrictions we had in Canada. But don't worry about it. Walmart could stay open.
Right.
All these big companies can stay open, but the mom and pop shops are closed, right?
Right. So
Like,
like,
they had everything closed. Like, these guys aren't business friendly. It just
well, they're not business friendly unless the business gives them
pertains to them.
money,
Yeah,
which a lot
like
of the big
large
businesses do.
corporations. Yeah,
A lot of the big businesses do, because the big businesses want to be on the side of,
the
the
government.
liberal parties who are hip and who is in power now. You know what I mean? So like, like, he doesn't give a shit about business or any of that shit. You know what I mean? But like, he doesn't need, real news, no bullshit.
Yeah.
Like,
So what?
he doesn't need real news, no bullshit. All Trudeau needs is the CBC. You know what I mean? Which, funny enough, is being hurt by this also, because the thing you sent me was a screenshot of their Instagram that you couldn't see anything on. But I mean, how fast do you think the restrictions will be lax? And
So this is what I was going to bring up, right? So we have these terrible wildfires going on right now, as of August of 2023 here, and so. Okay, so amidst the 2023 Canadian wildfires, Meta received further calls from Member of Parliament Rodriguez and Saint Ange, I don't know how to pronounce that,
it
to
doesn't
lift
matter.
preemptive restrictions on news content. So it's on Facebook Meta, arguing that it's hindering the distribution of up-to-date information on the fires. So the thing that you just put in to, like, your bill passed, right? So it has royal assent or whatever, right? So the bill that you guys put through is now biting you in the ass because it's hindering Canadians that are in danger from a fire, like massive fires, that they can't get the information they need now because of it.
Oh God!
Like, that's what I don't understand. Like, it's just so ridiculous, and I'm honestly trying my best to, like, read as much stuff as I can on this now. I watched some videos and I'm trying to understand, like, why? What's the point of it? How is this going to help Canadians? It's not. It's
I
gonna.
bet.
It's not.
I bet someone. I hope not, but I hope not. Right? But I bet someone is gonna die because they didn't get news about those wildfires now. I bet
Honestly,
there's some person that just, it's convenient for them. They get their news on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, right? And they're not getting shit now. And what they're not getting is the local news saying, "Hey, if you're in this area, evacuate." You know what I mean?
yeah. So there's been 6
I
deaths
bet
so
that's
far this year in the wildfire season. They've evacuated 155,000 people.
Jesus. Okay, but like, so those people got those, like, you know, evacuation things either from the news or
Emergency alert system on your phone.
like you have that text thing.
Yeah, it pops up in a
Yeah,
little while.
right. But like, I mean, are you gonna hope that works? You know what I mean?
Also, I mean, like, a lot of these emergency alert things, like, they always have, like, oh, we're doing a test, and then, like, some of it works, some of it doesn't work. I mean, I live in the Ottawa area, and we've had a couple tornadoes. And I remember the first set of tornadoes we had, I got emergency alert, but the last set of tornadoes, I didn't get anything. I didn't get any reminders telling me. If I wasn't
God.
following up on the news, on my phone, knowing like, hey, I know there's a bad storm coming, let me check. If I didn't know that was going to be there, I'd be screwed. I would 100% be screwed. And now the people, the average person who just wants to, fire up Instagram, check on Facebook, what are they going to do now? They're going to rely on the government's texts that don't work half the time for their own
God.
safety? Ah. Yeah, I know. Like I'm looking up, right? So like the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, under Section 2, subsection B, right? Freedom of thought, belief, opinion, expression, including the freedom of press and other media communication. So like the thing about Canada is like the rights are there until like the
They're
government says
not.
so.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
they're
in
not.
America, it's like this is our God-given right. This is our right. But in Canada, it's like, yeah, these are your rights until the government kind of says it isn't. So it's like, is this like? I looked it up, and apparently this is within the rights, but like, I think it's really not. I think they're really hindering, you know, our ability to see it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a lawyer, but I mean, it's
You don't have
just
to. That's the thing, though, is you don't have to be a fucking lawyer. Like that's what people think, though. It's like, oh, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't speak to the legality of this kind of shit. Like, yes, you can. It's your fucking rights, dude. You 100% can. It's fucked up. You don't have to be a lawyer to see that it's fucked. Like
the
this
problem with
is just
Canadians is
this
Canadians are
is
so
insane.
submissive. Canadians are so submissive. Like, we don't push back. We don't get angry. We're like, oh, it's the way she goes, and we just kind of just take it and just keep going. And it's like the people of Canada are just so passive. This is why the government pushed so far during like COVID, and no one pushed back until we had the huge convoy thing. But it was like the people are like, oh no, anyways,
Well,
and then
like,
move on to their lives. And it's like, do you not understand what's going on? And like the
yeah,
thing though is like, so if I'm reading like public opinions about this now on like Instagram, right? Trudeau has like terrible ratings right now. He's like one of the lowest, rated prime
really.
ministers at this point. No one likes him. I haven't met anyone that actually likes him. And like,
Well, yeah.
as I'm saying, like, it's like, is he just like trying to like hide the fact now in the news that people don't like him, and there's all these articles coming out now about how low his rankings is? Because like
God.
if you look at like projected like election, if it were to happen, you'd be out.
Well, here's the thing now too is like once you cut down on also, so I was going to go back to the point of so I was reading about um the all that the censorship, the bill and everything like that. So like
Yeah.
it's like um the big like national like news things in Canada, like I don't even know what those are, but you know what I mean. But I would assume they're all progressive leaning media things that will just kind of go along with whatever the government's doing, so long as
Yeah.
it's
Follow the
progressive. You know what I
narrative.
mean?
Follow the progressive narrative.
Right. So like, and all of those giant companies, they're fine. You know what I mean? They're okay. You got all you got to do is get the CBC app or the Toronto Star app or whatever, right? And then you're
Yeah.
good. You know what I mean? But
We got to pay a subscription fee to read the articles. It's
right,
it's like picking up a newspaper.
right. So like, and if you want news that is bipartisan, or just maybe you kind of have to be confronted with the fact that like there is actually conservative people in the world that don't like the media, don't like consuming media that leans progressively. You know what I mean? And they want conservative leaning news, right? Which
Or just neutral,
yeah,
nonpartisan
well,
news,
but I know, yeah, but like it's you're not gonna get it. You know what I mean?
No.
But like, just if you want news, but you don't want it from the CBC or Toronto Star, then you're fucked. You know what I mean? And like the government in Canada only has the incentive to do what's going to help those news networks because those news networks do what they say. Why would you willingly help someone who's not going to help you, right? I
Yeah,
don't
it's all
like I
about
don't
their personal interest.
like I don't know what the big conservative news thing is in Canada. But like, why would the government help them at all when they're just going to talk shit about Trudeau and this Pablo Rodriguez guy? Why would they help them? They wouldn't, or they wouldn't be quick to. You know what I mean? And now, like, you're not going to see any of this shit in the news. Like, the stuff you need to see about, like, oh, how ridiculous this is, and this is a joke, and these guys are not doing things for the people that voted for them, or they're not doing things for the people of Canada. You know what I mean? It's like, you're not going to see that anymore. You're not going to. They've taken away the dissenting voice. You know what I mean?
I mean, this
And
goes back to what I
they
was saying about how good Liberal Party is or was, with like controlling the media, like for elections and their popularity. So, is this all part of their master plan for keeping the big red liberal machine going, or what?
yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really think it's like a big like giant conspiracy of like, oh, we need to do this. You know what I mean? But I think it's more along the lines of what can we get away with? You know what I
I
mean?
mean,
They just like
yeah,
hop from one thing to the next. You know what I mean? Like at first in Canada, it was like, oh, I think we could like just freeze all like transfer of handguns, and it worked. And they're like,
yeah,
what else can we
yeah.
get away with now? Like,
I was
oh,
gonna say
I
like,
think we could just like silence all the dissenting voices from our progressive opinion. It's like, oh, looky there, it worked. So it's like, what are they going to take away now, Canada?
yeah, I really don't know at this point, and
like,
I don't
fuck,
even know what to
like,
say.
like you were even saying like the gas prices and all that shit were like messed up and everything. Like, you just got a car and you're like, the tax is ridiculous,
Yeah, I got rid of
right?
my
Like
truck to save money on gas, and then now I'm paying like what I used to
more
pay for
money.
my truck. Like
But
I couldn't imagine if I kept
you
it.
have a car. You have a little
Yeah,
car now. You don't
yeah.
have a giant truck. You have a little car now. And like, oh, I'm paying the same amount of money. Oh, okay, thanks, Trudeau.
Like I said, I couldn't imagine what it was like if I still had my truck. How much I'd be paying?
God, dude. So like, it literally is like, what are they gonna do now? You know what I mean? Like, what are they gonna take away now? Like, it's gonna be something next. Like, it's gonna be something.
The Conservative Party in 2021 under Aaron O'Toole, their platform proposed a similar policy, calling on tech giants to fairly compensate media for content they create through an arbitration process. The current leader of the Conservative Party, Pierre Poilievre, has not made an interview available with the press, but he has said, you have the Prime Minister passing a law to make news articles disappear from the internet. Who would ever imagine Canada, the federal government, would pass laws banning people, from seeing the news? Now, CTV News has saying falsely, Pierre Poilievre is falsely claiming people can't see the news under the new law, and it's like he is limiting people from seeing the news.
Yeah, like,
You can look at other
okay.
sources, but through a certain avenue,
I mean, like, you can go to the website,
yeah, I
right?
can go to the website, but I mean, who wants to go to the website?
At which there's a paywall. Yeah, like, yeah,
That too,
that's
like
so maybe he
the
misspoke when he said the entire internet, because it's not the entire internet. Like, you can go to the website, but you're here with a fucking paywall.
he didn't say the entire internet. He just said, effectively banning people from seeing the news. And it's like, you think
Oh yeah,
the average person, the
is going to the
average
website.
is
No,
actually no, they're
yeah,
not. They're
yeah,
scrolling. Dude, everyone lives in their phones these days on social media.
yeah.
They're
That's what I'm
scrolling
saying.
social media.
They're going to Instagram and X or Twitter, whatever.
Yeah, and Facebook and
Yeah, like
the
yeah,
average person doesn't care or look into that much stuff as much as like other people do, like we do.
yeah,
And then CTV News claiming that he's falsely, saying like, no, that's bullshit. Straight up, the government is limiting the news. In my opinion, the government's
yeah.
limiting the news.
And if this had been, and if whether it's liberal or conservative or whatever, I mean, if any party is cool with this, then no, no, then I'm not cool with them. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
this is fucking stupid.
Like I said, I think Pierre Poilievre has a different stance than like the last guy that was running the re-election, because the last guy that was running the re-election was kind of like a wiener. He was just very like not a. I wouldn't say he's not prime minister quality, leadership quality. I mean, he had some good attributes about him, but he was also just not the guy. But Pierre Poilievre, he's the guy. He's the guy. The guy's bang on with everything that he says. He's quick to remark. He understands what the average Canadian. Trudeau is so delusional about what the average person is doing. It's just
Yeah,
what you're saying before is like, what are they going to do next? I can't even say what they're going to do next because, like, what are they going to do next? I don't know. I'm having such a hard time trying to understand this whole situation, and I feel kind of stupid because like this was happening earlier in the year, then it just kind of snuck up and just hit me.
yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, so like right now I'm noticing Meta, right, which is like Facebook and Instagram, right?
yeah,
So I'm looking at an article right now, and it's saying like, will Google follow? So it says, like Meta, Google has said that they would remove news links in Canada before the law comes into effect by the end of the year. Unlike Meta, Google has talks with the government in hopes of finding a solution, right? So Meta pretty much just yanked. It's like, all right,
yeah.
we're not,
Everything. Yeah,
that's it. Like, okay, well, whatever. It's stupid. We're not paying. So, Google's president is said, we plan to participate in regulatory process and will continue to be transparent with Canadians and publishers as we move forward. So a bargaining deal may come into effect between Google and the government about what's going on.
yeah. It fucking won't. Okay, so like Trudeau's solution to you know news from like the CBC and Toronto Star and all that shit, supposedly. So his issue is to prevent smaller news agencies from just copying those articles, re-putting them on their website or their posts on Instagram and Facebook, is to make Facebook or Meta, whatever, pay those bigger news agencies if that happens. So, and then the Meta, which is a business, is promptly like, "Oh, fuck that. We're not going to pay shit." You know what I mean? Because the only people that are benefiting from that is the CBC and the big Canadian news agencies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like Meta isn't benefiting from CBC being on Instagram and Facebook. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Facebook or Meta doesn't give a shit whether CBC and the Toronto Star's accounts on Facebook and Instagram are pumping out content and articles and whether they make money or not. You know what I mean? Which they do because they get clicks on those profiles and ads play on the videos they put up and all that kind of shit, right?
When you think about like the large scale of like the world, do you think they care about just Canada?
No.
No, I mean, we're 40 million people.
It's like, a tenth of the United States.
Yeah,
they don't care. They don't care.
Yeah, they really couldn't care. There's other markets in the world that they can make loads of money off of.
Yeah, it wasn't like that's where it's like dumb. Is like that's where like Trudeau doesn't give a shit about business is because this is gonna end up actually hurting the CBC and like those businesses like that, those like giant corporations in Canada, those giant news corporations.
Yeah,
it's gonna end up hurting them because no one's gonna view their shit either. You know what I mean? Like, people are gonna stop seeing their stuff on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. You know what I mean? People are just gonna stop seeing all that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, people are gonna,
like,
the
people already aren't watching the fucking news, right? The people already aren't consuming the news in like record numbers, right? So you think the people are going to go out of their? You think the people with short ass attention spans nowadays are going to go out of their way to consume the news? No, they're just going to not consume the news at all.
Or they're going to just get it from the other sources. Like they're going to go on like TikTok and someone with a 10-second video is going to explain something. Or like I said, some of these smaller pages that I follow, that like kind of give the no bullshit news, that they're probably going to get the news from those guys now instead of the narrative pushed by like, the big media companies. It's like, is
Yeah.
this really helping them? Probably not.
Well, like all those pages are going to get fucking yoinked because now they're going to use fucking AI to be like, oh, you're from Canada, you can't view that shit, so it's going to block you from seeing it. They're going to use
Um,
AI. They're going to roll out AI that prevents you from seeing it, unless I think you said you got a VPN, right?
yeah, so
Like how many? Like
I just turned my VPN off right now. I'm gonna go check if any of these
like how many people are you gonna like? How many like people aren't going to pay $100 to watch fucking news on Instagram? Like, you know what I mean? Like this is that's why like he's like, oh, it's gonna help Canadian news agencies. Like, for one, don't act like you give a fuck about a business, you know what I mean, let alone a news agency, you know what I mean? But then, like, to say it's going to help them, like, no, it's going to hurt them. You know what I mean? People are going to be like, you know what? I don't really like the fucking news anyway. I don't really give a shit. I'm not going to watch it. And then they're just not going to.
okay, so I can't see CBC. I can't see Rebel News, which is kind of like a weird conservative right kind of news thing in Canada, and I
Mm-hmm.
can't see the real news, no bullshit now on Instagram. So all the news sources are
Great.
blocked.
Great. Yeah.
So
So, fuck, dude. God.
let
It's
let me
fucked.
fire up my VPN again. Like,
Well, and then like you were saying, like, oh, people just go to TikTok, like, yeah, because TikTok is from China. They don't give a fuck.
yeah, the
TikTok,
Chinese
yeah,
TikTok.
all they're gonna do is funnel in like Chinese news and shit. You know what I mean? Like, and that's not good. You know what I
No,
mean?
I mean,
I'm coming from like an American perspective, so
well, you know
we're
what the
not very
crazy thing is?
chill. We're not chill with China. I don't know if Canada's chill with China or not.
No, we're not, because the Chinese pretty much influenced our last election. And then like that went through the news cycle and like no one really gave a shit about it. Like they literally found Chinese government paying like media and ads for the liberals.
Jeez.
So
It's like, oh god. But if you start saying this kind of shit, you're a conspiracy theorist and you're fucking an asshole. You know what I mean? Like,
dude, I'm not. I
I'm
mean,
sure some like I'm
dude,
sure
it was an
someone will listen to
intelligence
this and be
leak.
like
Someone leaked from our intelligence agency that they found this happening.
that China was influencing. Oh my god,
Yes.
Jesus
So I
Christ!
can't be a conspiracy theorist because
It's true. It's true.
someone who's smarter than me, who works for a government agency involved in intelligence, leaked all this stuff. I I can't be a conspiracy theorist because this is true information.
Oh fuck, Goose, is this gonna be news?
I don't know. I don't know if we're gonna get.
Oh my god, that'd be hilarious. Honestly,
I don't think this would be news. I mean, this is more of like an opinion thing, right? You know, our style is, you know, kind of the Joe Rogan casual conversation with looking up
yeah,
facts kind of thing.
yes, and also being stupid and not knowing what we're talking about. 100%.
Yeah,
Yes, we're just like Joe Rogan.
exactly.
God,
Throwing shade at Joe Rogan.
he doesn't know.
I'm not a big fan of him.
Um, yeah, for anybody who wants to say like, oh, they're just fucking conservative. Well, no, we're not.
Actually, the first election Trudeau ran in, I voted Liberal. So
There you
I'm
go.
just, dude,
Yes.
I drank the Kool-Aid. First election, voted Liberal, and then Trudeau showed his real colors and wasn't everything he said he was going to be,
Yeah.
and then I pretty much switched to the other side.
Yeah, and I'm literally right down the middle. I hate both sides equally.
Yeah, it's not that I hate both sides equally. It's just I have a mistrust, and I mean, the older I get, the more I just like
Realize it's bullshit.
I just realized it's all bullshit. I mean, when I was younger, it was
Yeah, it's
like
just bullshit.
I was really drawn into politics, and then yeah, the older I get, the more I realize it's all just bullshit, and we're all just no ones that they don't care about.
Amen, brother.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this will be the end of the episode. You know, thanks
Yeah.
for listening. We've had some great feedback from our episode about Stonewall Jackson. Like I have loads of people messaging me on Instagram and Facebook saying how much they liked it. and
Oh yeah.
how, Harry and I sound like we know what we're talking about, which is great. That really helps us with confidence. If you got any more feedback, just fire us a message on Instagram or Facebook, or
Yeah.
I mean, most people listening actually knows in real life, so I mean, just talk to me. I've had like face to face conversations with people about this podcast too, which is funny. But yeah, thanks for listening, and hopefully we'll get another episode out soon. We're gonna try to do every week, but I mean, life happens, and we'll see if we could do that. So we'll try to stay ahead.
Yeah.
Any more closing thoughts, Harry?
Nope. That's it.
Cool. Well, make sure you follow us on all our social media. We got an Instagram. We got a Facebook page. There's a YouTube, which we're working on getting our stuff uploaded to. Harry made us a great website. So I mean, that's pretty much it, man. Hopefully we'll have some guests on soon. I'm
Yeah.
reaching out to people right now. So if anyone wants to come on and talk about, one of the things that we're interested in, shoot us a message. We're definitely looking
Yeah.
for people to chat with. So thanks, and talk to you next week.
Oh yeah. Till next time.